Welcome to Yapping Unfiltered. This is my episode reaction slash breakdown slash review of Agatha All Along, episode 7, Death's Hand in Mine. So I'll just walk through the episode as it goes, and then I'll sort of talk about my theories and review of the episode at the end. So the scene starts with Lilia falling. We have seen the scene in, if you haven't seen the show, obviously spoilers, but we've seen the scene in trailers of Lilia falling. They elaborate what that is in this episode, but the scene starts off with that. It's this very cinematic shot of Patty LuPone just like falling backwards and be like, oh my god, as Glinda the Witch. And then we transition to Billy and Agatha Harkness, who are up top on surface. And it's sort of just like they're having this conversation back and forth. And she keeps mentioning that, oh, don't you want to talk to your old nanny? Don't you want to find your mother? And he's like, she's not my mom. I have a mom. So I think the reason, like last week, my biggest question was, why is he not looking for Wanda? I guess now we know why. Because he doesn't remember anything before his soul transfer. All he knows is that he's Billy, the son of the Scarlet Witch, and William, that he's living in William's body, living William's life. And so for him, William's mom is his mom. I mean, biologically she is, but also for him, she is his mom, and Wanda is not. So I sort of think they're going to try to adapt the Children's Crusade in a different regard, because in that he didn't know Wanda was his mom, but here he does. So I think what they might do is like sort of do where they're like, they have to find Wanda, and he's like, oh, whatever, but then they sort of connect on a more emotional level. But anyway, so then they find the next trial, which is a castle, which is Lilia's trial. So the two of them go in, okay, and they change into different witches from like Disney mythology. So Teen becomes Maleficent, and Agatha becomes the Green Witch from Wicked, aka, the Green Witch, Wicked Witch of the East or something like that. And so then it's technically Lilia's trial. It's a tarot trial, and there are just tarot cards on the deck, and Teen's like, oh my god, wait, I kind of know this. And Agatha's like, sure, go ahead. And he starts getting them wrong, and when you get one wrong, a sword falls. And it falls to the sky. It falls from the roof all the way down. And then slowly the roof starts descending, very slowly, and swords fall as you keep getting the wrong. And Agatha's like, oh my god, like, let me do it. And she starts, like, slapping on random cards, and they keep falling. And she's like, eventually we'll get it right. And he's like, oh my god, they're gonna make us die. But during that same time, we sort of see Lilia and Jen be underground after they'd fallen down. And this sequence was a little weird. But I'll give you the basic rundown of what happened in order of what happened rather than what happens in the show, because it's really confusing, and I don't want you to have to like be like, what happened? I don't know. Anywho, so they get down to the trial. Lilia sort of explains that her life happens in sequences, where she remembers abruptly. And so they sort of show all of these different sequences. So one of the main ones, as we all theorize, Alice, don't try to save Agatha because then she dies. And one of them is the Coven in episode 1, where they go to Lily and she's like, oh, you don't need me. And then she writes them down after remembering. So she's living her life in different sequences. And she said she had this problem when she was young, but she sort of managed to push it down, and now it's happening again and again. And she knows that, I think this is maybe because this is the end of the road for me. My life is coming to an end, which is why I'm sort of seeing it in fragments. So long story short, they're traversing this tunnel. You sort of see these different visions that she's had in the past, and they reach this middle ground where they sort of decide which way they want to go. There is the exit, a way out of the road, which Jen wants to take. Then there's this other road, which we don't know what, and then there's one that goes to Lilia's trial. So as you're in the middle, they hear the Salem 7. So they hide, the Salem 7 come, the Salem 7 are like, whatever they're saying. And then they go down the other route that we don't know. So then it's Lilia and Jen. And Lilia says, I'm going to go do my trial. I know that this is the way I have to go. If you want, you can go the way. But I would love you to be there with me as a coven member. And that sort of touches Jen on an emotional level, which we will get to. So her and Jen bond quite a bit in this episode. So then they get into the tower. So then they follow this roads, and Lilia keeps having gaps, where she remembers or she doesn't remember, and Jen sort of has to be like, you told me this is what's happening. Like, we have to, like, figure it out, work it out together. And they eventually reach this thing that's sort of like a bookshelf. So they push it open, and they're in the trial with Agatha and Billy now. And so Lilia's dressed as Glinda, the nice witch, and Jen is like the witch from Snow White with, like, the weird pimple, the hair, the white hair. Not a good look. So pretty much Lilia gets there. She's like, okay, we need to tarot. So she's like, who wants to do tarot? And Teen's like, oh my god, me. So she's like, okay, ask me a question, then I'll deal. And then Teen's like sitting there as the thing slowly starts descending, and Agatha and Jen are like, pick something. And then he asks the question, am I Billy or am I Tommy? Am I Billy or am I William? And I think that's the biggest question that he has to answer. I think that's the biggest question that he sort of has to answer in the show. Is he Billy Maximoff or is he William Kaplan? I think what they might do, we'll get to that later, but that's something important. If you read the comics, you'll know, but we'll get there later. So then Lilia starts remembering lessons from her master, and I'm guessing because her and her master will divination, which is they can sort of commune outside the realm of time. And she sort of starts remembering of all the weird things, the one-liners that she said. Those are all things happening at her trial, for her trial. Then the thing is, she tried to be like the card dealer for Billy, but in actuality, she had to read her own divination. So she does a few divinations. I am not familiar with tarot, so they might have different, like, more in-depth, more, deeper meanings than that I'm aware of, that I know. So, but she reads out her journey, and in the end, she discovers Rio is death. Yes, Rio Vidal, the original Green Witch, is the Witch of Death. We knew this. If you saw the Funko leak, it leaked that Billy Kaplan, Billy Maximoff. We'll talk about Billy Kaplan, and that what's his face? That Rio Vidal is death. That was pretty much, we already knew it was coming, and now it's confirmed through Lilia's divination, because again, all roads lead to death. There's a scene of them in the 80s where it spells out death when they're doing the Ouija board, and she's like, oh, and she's like laughing like, because it's like, no shit, the bitch is right there, she's death. Mama, death behind you, if you know the meme. So pretty much, she does all of this, and she's pretty much like, all of her visions come into play. She reveals her fate, which is death. She dies. But the way she does it is so beautiful and in a way. So the trial stops, and then it's like almost about to kill them, and then it slowly starts rising. And then this door opens up to the exit. Then she sort of says, everyone. Then you hear the Salem 7. They're on their way. She then opens the door, like the exit, and she's like, okay, everyone, get out. And Agatha runs as usual, and then she sort of gives each one of them a message of sorts that is really important to their journey moving forward. So as they're leaving, she tells Agatha, when she calls you a coward, hit the deck. Duck. Obviously, this is referring to the big fight between her and Rio that we know is going to happen. We'll explain what that might be in a little bit of time. We'll explain what I think. I have a few theories about that. But anyway, she tells her to hit the deck, which I'm guessing pretty much means death is coming for you. You need to be like, when she says that, Doc, that's like your main saving moment. The second thing for Billy is she gives him his book. She finds his book, she gives it to him. Sorry. What significance that is, I think the significant part of that, we'll get to that part later, because I think getting through this, it's a beautiful scene. You have to watch the ending. It's beautiful. So for Jen, she says, "You are the path to the road ahead." And then she pushes her and shuts the door. So she pushes them all three, she closes the door, and then she walks back into the trial, and then the Salem Seven start appealing their animal forms, and they're there. So then she gives this long speech, which might be a hint of something in the future, where she says, once you have completed a trial, and if you stay there longer than you're supposed to, something catastrophic will happen. And the Salem Seven are looking at her like, yeah, right. So there's this card called there's a tower flipping, a tower crumbling. She flips the card, the tower spins upside down, and the witches fall to their death on the swords. Lilia, on the other hand, is like hanging on to the floor, technically the roof. Now, and that's the scene where she slowly descends and dies. They don't show it graphically like they did for Alice, but that's how the episode ends. But there's one line that she says at the end, which is very beautiful and very poetic. She's always said, like, oh my god, like, this witch stuff, it's so stereotypical. And then the last line, at least she tells to Jen, Billy, and Agatha's, I loved being a witch. And she slams the door. And I'm like, that's such a full circle moment, because she's hid that part of it for so long. And now near the end of her life, she's like, you know what? I loved it. I loved being a witch. And I think that often, I feel like that's a symbol for, a lot of us in our life, where we think, or we hide a part of ourselves that we keep hiding from everyone else. And then until the very end, it's like, oh, I loved that. I loved doing that, This is who I am. And I think, I feel like a lot of people will resonate with that, and sort of, find the courage or the excitement to do what they've always wanted to do, to experience what they've always wanted to, and to not let things block them. But anywho, getting back to the episode. Before I give my review, let's talk about the three things she says. To Agatha, she says, when she calls you a coward duck, very clear, her and Rhea are gonna fight. We don't know the outcome of that fight, but clearly there's a scene where she ducks, and I'm guessing she says you're a coward. She throws something, and she knows Lilia told me to duck, and she ducks. For Billy, she gives him the book. Now, there are a lot of interesting things to note. Let's start off with the book. I think the book, very clearly, he doesn't know how to do magic unless it's like very emotional, like his mother. So I think the book with the spells and everything is his way of learning magic. That's his book. That's his Darkhold that's not going to corrupt him version of the magic book. And I think Agatha is going to be that sort of teacher for him. In the comics, Agatha is this witch that helps Wanda learn magic and sort of be her on her journey. I think she's going to be there for Billy instead, and he'll sort of be like an amalgamation of Agatha meets Wanda, which I think is very deadly. So I do think that is what the book represents. Is she's like, okay, take this, learn this, you're gonna need it. And I think he might end up helping Agatha fight Rio, which I think is going to be really interesting. For Jen, you are the road, you path to the road ahead. I think Jen might be crucial to the next trial or the next important event. We do see a scene where she is like climbing out of dirt inside of Westview. Whether that's a trial or hallucination, I don't know. I do think that it is going to be her, in a way, escaping the road so that maybe Agatha and Billy can finish it, and that she's like, okay, I don't need it. I'm done. You guys do it. You guys finish it. I don't know. It might be something like that. Now that if we're talking about Rio, Agatha, and Billy. So the question that Billy proposed is, am I Billy or am I William. You know, he said he's either William Kaplan or Billy Maximoff, and I sort of think, you know, his journey by the end of it, he's going to merge, like he is Billy Kaplan. He's both Billy Maximoff and he's William Kaplan, so he's gonna take parts of both of his names to make this new one, where he is Billy Kaplan, like he is in the comics. I don't know why I didn't think about that earlier, but I think that's the whole thing with Billy and him sort of, you know, getting the persona Billy Kaplan, which is his name in the comics. For Agatha, I think her and Rio are going to fight. They're going to fight. And I think Billy might play a role in helping her, Agatha. The Salem Seven's death was really weird. They were like such a big, ominous force that are like constantly hunting them down, and then they're like, oh no, they're dead. So I don't know whether there's more to it, or maybe, you know, Rio made a deal with the Salem Seven, and then she's gonna carry out their vengeance. Why she wants to kill her, I think maybe Agatha was supposed to die a long time ago, but because she absorbed the magic that was supposed to kill her, she can't. So only Rio can kill her in a weird way. So I think that is what Agatha's going to do. Because if you think about it, Wanda didn't kill her. She took all her magic, but that's it. You know, Rio... what's her face? Agatha, like, actually killed people she absorbed from. So I think maybe that has something to do with her. She, like, literally can't die. So I think that's that. In general, I'd give this episode a 7 out of 10. I do think it was a lot weaker, especially with the whole Salem 7 bit and the random memory flip-flopping. I think it's going to have a big payoff in the finale, but we don't know it right now. I think it was a little disappointing, but, you know, not every single episode has to hit. Some episodes are lore builders. But I do think 6 and 7 were a little bit duds, especially compared to the first 5, which were amazing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Put your theories in the comments below, and yeah.